So this video is going to go through a few basic steps that you should learn in Photoshop when it comes to different tools and tricks. The first thing, of course, once Photoshop is open, you need to get to your project. I go down to Open Recent and I look and see if my project is there, which it most of the time will be. So I am going to open up Review. So what I would like to do next is I would like to create a sand layer. Remember, every single time you add a new object within your artwork, you need to create a new layer. So I'm going to the top of my screen and I'm doing Layer, New Layer, and I have to name it correctly. So I'm naming it Sand. I think that things look better when they are more than one color, so a gradation. So over here in my tools, I have the gradation tool, which is G, already selected. Down here on the bottom I have a pink and a blue, and up here you can see that that's already the gradation. I want to do sand, however, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to find the color that is a little bit more sandy. And I'm also going to make the bottom color similar but darker. And then I'm going to press OK. And I'm going to click and drag to create my sand. Using the keyboard shortcut Control-T, which means transform, I'm creating a bounding box, and I'm going to take this top line and I'm going to bring it down to the bottom. I'm going to press Enter to get rid of my bounding box, and I'm going to change the order of my layers and put it behind logo. Right now my logo layer is at 100% opacity, so I'm going to change it and make it slightly see-through. Now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do Layer, New Layer, and I'm going to name it Seaweed. I'm going to come down and I'm going to select colors that I think would be nice seaweed. So a light green and a darker green. Again, I can see the colors. So again, I can see the colors down here in the color picker. And I'm going to press B to select the paintbrush, which is right here. And then up on the top, I'm going to click on this and it gives me a bunch of default brushes. Again, this does hard edge, this does soft edge, and then these are a bunch of different default brushes. For this project, I'm going to use this grass to create the look of seaweed. And I'm going to click and drag. If I want the brush to become bigger, I'm going to go down into my keyboard, and next to the letter P, I'm going to find the brackets and I'm going to click one bracket, which will make my brush bigger, and the other bracket will make my brush smaller. I'm going to move the logo again so it's in front of this seaweed. The top tool in my toolbar is the Move tool, and I'm going to use this, and I'm going to move this seaweed so it's in the front. I'm going to go back to B brush and fill in this area here. I want to create another layer, so I like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a duplicate layer. So I'm right-clicking on this empty space here, not on the word, not on the picture. On this empty space, I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to duplicate the layer. I am going to use my Move tool, which is the top tool in the toolbar, and I'm going to move it. I'm going to do Control-T, right-click, flip it horizontally so it looks a little bit different, and I'm going to scale it smaller because I want this to look like it's further back in space. And I'm going to put it behind my logo. And I feel like my logo is still too dark, so I'm going to soften it a little bit more so we can see. Now I want to create a fish, so again I'm doing Layer, New Layer. I'm going to name it Fish. I'm going to come down and select a color that I'd like to work with, which is orange. Press OK. I'm going to press B for my brush. I'm going to come up, and since it's a fish, that's a hard edge, so I need to select the hard edge brush. Again, just by hovering your mouse over the brushes, it gives you a small description, so that's soft, hard. And now I'm going to press Enter. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click once with my mouse. That looks more like a puffer fish than a goldfish or a clownfish. So I'm going to do Control-T and I'm going to squish it. And right now I'd rather make a fish that's a little too large on my artwork and scale it smaller later. Because I'm working on something small, I want to do Control plus to zoom in. And then I'm placing my hand on the space bar, which causes this grab tool to happen. And then using my mouse, I'm clicking and dragging to get my fish on the screen. I'm using the bracket next to the letter P, and I'm scaling my brush so it's smaller. I am going to zoom out a little, make my brush a little smaller to make this tail come to more of a point. Okay, and then I could even add some fins on the top here. And then I can go back, make it smaller. Larger, another fin on the bottom, smaller, and I'm going to actually switch by pressing and holding. I'm going to get this small eraser, hard edge, and I am going to clean this up. And again, all of this is possible because I'm working on individual layers. Now I'm going to get black, and I can quickly get black by clicking on this black and white. Get my brush, and I could do an eye. And maybe I want to create some markings. Okay, if I want to go back and add some orange, I can click on my color picker window. I can move it over, and then I can take my mouse over here. It becomes a color picker, and you see it automatically colors it orange or blue or white. So I'm going to get the orange, and if I want, I could paint over this to maybe make it smaller. So let's say that my fish is perfect. I love it. I'm going to do Control-0 to zoom out, and I am going to right-click on this fish and duplicate it. Using the Move tool, the top tool in my toolbar, I can move the fish. Maybe this one I want to scale smaller, and I want it to look like it is. I'm going to flip it horizontally, and I'm going to make it look like it's swimming through the P. So I want to put this one behind the logo. And this one, maybe I want to rotate it slightly and scale it smaller and have it here, swimming this way. And then duplicate it again. And you always want your, you never want to duplicate something that is really small and make it large because you will lose pixels. So if you notice, I'm still duplicating from that big one. And I can have another fish, and another fish, and another fish, and I can create a school of fish very easily. So if you spend a long time creating one fish, that's all right, because it's going to make your artwork look a whole lot better. All right, and maybe this guy I will have way down here, away from the rest, and rotate up. Your artwork has to have a strong foreground, middle ground, and background. So right now, my foreground is this grass up front and some of this dark sand. My middle ground is when I start walking into it, and I have this grass a little bit further back and some of these fish. And then my background is the ocean itself. This is not done. This is just the beginning. If I continued, I would add rocks. I might even add a sunken ship. It's rays coming down into the water. There's a lot of stuff that I could add. So please make sure when you're working today that you are checking to make sure you're working on the right layer, fixing your mistakes in your history menu. So every click of my mouse has been documented here. And just be aware of your tools and that, yeah, your paint bucket is hidden behind your gradient tool.